This is our regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors for Tuesday, July 21st, 2026. And we'll start with a moment of silence if we have any supervisors today. Not seeing any. Supervisor Crandall, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Are there any extra items not appearing on the agenda today?
No, there are not, Chair.
Thank you. And we'll move on to approval of the consent agenda. I already have, we're going to be pulling item 5.10 and 5.16. Are there anything further from supervisors? 5.10 and 5.16. Nothing further? Okay, anything from the public? Anybody in the public want to request in the room that we pull anything? What about online, Johanna? Sam, can you promote Johanna, please?
What I do notice is that in the ask to pull 5.10, they ask that we see it after the permit revocation hearings.
Correct, which those are actually going to be pulled too when we
Okay.
get, there's going to be a request to remove those.
Okay.
No hands? Okay, then I'd be ready for action.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the consent agenda with the exceptions of 510 and 516.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, that carries 4-0. And next, we're going to move on to our public comment. We'll start in the room for anybody wishing to speak. And if you could state your name, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Justin Quayle. I come here to talk about transparency and honesty. Last week you said that community development is not private investigators, but that's not true. All the emails I've sent to you, and I also sent, and it's very sad to watch the dishonesty and the lying to you guys. I mean, the emails prove that community development is completely becoming police, sheriffs. They're making their own determinations. They're making their own. I mean, we got the tax collector emailed me and said he's basically taking me off the license, and you guys took me off the license for filing complaints. We can't find anything in the criminal record. You know, we went to the public defender's office. They said the sheriffs are playing with me. You know, I don't understand the honesty. There is no honesty here. It is about bullying people. And it's wrong. It is wrong what you did to me. And if you're okay with it, every disabled person in this county is screwed. You know, when when you have somebody that files complaints and tries to do it right all the way, every single step of the way because they never want to go to jail again, you made it wrong for them. You attacked me. And I'm sorry that I'm disabled. I'm sorry that I ask questions. Sorry that I have clarity. And in 2 years, I'm not going to remember any of this because of my disability. And I would like to have it on paper. And what I have on paper is not honesty. It's bullying. I'm sorry that I reported her for not doing the right thing. I'm sorry that I file complaints when people in the public deserve to have the right answer. I'm sorry that you have code enforcement officers with no accountability that can impersonate police officers. And the sheriff's department will not take the report just as informational. That's sad. It's sad. It's sad that you guys allow this woman to lie to you on a daily basis. You read the emails. We're posting them online because nobody in the news want to report about it, because they're worried about the retaliation that comes from the false complaints from code enforcement. It's sad. It's sad that this public has no trust in you. You don't punish these people. You allow it to keep happening over and over. Thank you, my kings. Thank you, my kings.
Thank you, Mr. Coyle. Do we have anybody else in the room?
Good morning.
Morning.
My name's Nicole Flora. I'm here with the Lake County Chamber of Commerce and the Lake County Economic Development Corporation. I'm going to share with you a few upcoming events that we would like to invite you to participate with. I'm going to follow up with an email to you on the details of each of these and links. And for the people in the public, you can find all of these events on the Lake County Chamber's community calendar. On August 5th, Wednesday, August 5th, we're going to have a ribbon cutting at Biasotti's Barbecue in Clear Lake. Join us at 10:45 to celebrate with Tim and his staff, and then join us for lunch afterwards when lunch service starts at 11:30. On Wednesday, August 12th, we're having a Young Professionals Network mixer at Disney's Boat Rental. Connor and Brandon are going to share with us the entrepreneurial legacy of their family. Later in August, on Wednesday the 19th, Lake County Tribal Health Consortium will host a healthcare mixer. It's going to feature new faces and new services for all the healthcare providers in Lake County, so join us for that. On Saturday, August 22nd, we'll have a CTA class, Certified Tourism Ambassadors class, for those who aren't familiar with that acronym, at the Schoolhouse Museum in Lower Lake. We have lots of stuff going on. So now I'm going to move on to September. On Wednesday, September 16th, we'll have a mixer hosted by Mendocino College Foundation, and they're going to be talking about the success of the Summer Scholars Program. We'll have some students there to talk about their experience with that summer school program. And then on Monday, September 28th, we're going to be hosting a webinar for small businesses on how to unlock the power of AI and technology in your business. So like I said, I'll follow up with details. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you, Nicole.
Do we have anybody else in the room wishing to speak? Go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Maya Lynn, speaking for the Save Our Shelter. Hoping that we'll receive some information from our board very soon. 7 months later, I'm still here. I've been out of town, or I would have been here all the past couple weeks. As you know, everybody is still begrudgingly paying their extra taxes, and we're getting, I didn't have time to print them, but not really bullying letters, because they're just stating the fact that you must pay these fees, or you have 30 days and you can receive a notice, or 60 days, I don't even remember which it is. But a lot of people do not want to pay their pass-through fees. They don't want to pay their mailing fees. They don't want to pay the portal to pay their rent, because nobody uses a portal. And it's just little tits and tats that the corporation Caritas is using to not have on their profit and loss statement, but I guess they'll have it on there, but we're paying it. And so people have been taking that off their rent, and they're receiving notices that, they must pay it. Or, they'll have to obviously face the consequences because we're supposed to pay it. So anyway, people are struggling. They're trying to move. They're getting their daughters to pay for their fences that the Caritas should be paying for. We're paying for infrastructure. I don't know who's responsible for finally getting Lakeshore Boulevard up to Robin Hill paved or worked on a little bit, but thank goodness that's happening, and Robin Hill got paved according to a man from the Avenues who works from the county, from what I gather. But anyway, as we continue back into the very last little mobile home park where the potholes are ankle high deep, There's no chance of those getting paved until we pay for them, the people who live there, because Caritas isn't going to do it. And it's private property. So we continue with bad streets, potholes, and people are afraid to say anything because they know they're going to get more pass-through fees. They asked me to please just stop. They don't want me to talk. They just say, well, just Maya, just stop. You know, it's time for action. We're waiting, and there's just no end in sight. We received, I sent that to you, another 2% increase, of course, which we knew we would get with the CPI. That starts in October. That letter's already been received. I'm sure they would have done more, but obviously they know this is all going on, so they're not going to go above what's probably going to as the CPI. We still, though, have received, I can't even keep track, 18% in the past year increase. And I know it keeps going back and forth between council and you guys, but as it is, people are still suffering, they're waiting, and we don't see any, so far, end in sight. People are contacting me saying the lady who can't sell her house in Upper Lake, what's happening? And I don't know, because I did email or text the two ad hoc committee members and asked an update when I was in New York, but I haven't heard anything. So we ask you to please let us know what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else in the room? Yes, come forward and state your name. You'll have 3 minutes.
Joanne Marie Sugar Morris. I live on Old Spruce Grove Road, and we sold our ranch to John Brosnan about 10 years ago, and we were told that there was going to be a few marijuana plants because we had a meeting with him.
Hang on 1 second. Is this regarding the item that's on the agenda today?
I don't know. I've never done this before, so yeah, I believe it is.
Okay, because there's an item on the agenda related to a revocation
Yes.
on a,
Do I wait till?
yes,
Okay, sorry.
yes.
I didn't know. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
thank you. Yeah. This is for comments on anything that's not on the agenda, just for awareness. No, it's okay. Do we have anyone else in the room? Anyone online, Johanna? Zoom user 2, please state your name. You'll have 3 minutes.
Sky Lewa, Pillsbury Family Farms. And I want you guys to think about leadership today. And as a reminder, leadership isn't about making easy decisions. It's about asking the hard questions, even if asking those hard questions make your own staff uncomfortable. Far too often, our government becomes comfortable with hearing the one side of the story. Leadership requires something more. It requires asking, what aren't we being told? It requires, have we protected the public's right to due process? It requires asking, if this decision were made against me personally, would I believe that this process was fair? Those are the uncomfortable questions that you need to ask yourselves. Every county employee should expect their work to withstand public scrutiny, whether it's in their emails, reports, recommendations, or to remember that their decisions are public records and they belong to the people. Sometimes what is said in this room does not always match what is written in emails behind the scenes, and it's not an accusation. That's the purpose of the Public Records Act and why it exists. The Public Records Act reminds us that transparency isn't based on trust alone. It is based on verification. And as supervisors, don't be afraid to ask for those records. Don't be afraid to challenge a recommendation. And don't be afraid to ask your staff to explain why a decision was made or why ordinances weren't followed by staff themselves. It's not being anti-staff. It is being pro-accountability. If asking questions makes people uncomfortable, perhaps the discomfort isn't with the question at all. It's with the answer. The people that are sitting on that board are 5 elected supervisors, not 5 different departments. Your responsibility is to not simply ratify recommendations. Your responsibility is to exercise independent judgment. Lead by example for the public. Ask the hard questions for the public. Protect due process for the public. Demand transparency for the public. And as a reminder, public trust isn't built when the government says, trust us. It is built when the government says, here's the record and judge for yourself. Muleham.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else online? Zoom user, if you could identify yourself, you'll have 3 minutes.
Yes, good morning. My name is Sterling. I would like to speak about the budgets. You guys as supervisors have time before the final budget comes. I have been looking through the budgets from 2017 to present and looking to understand why the looming deficits that we are looking forward or looking in the future at is when did they arise? When did the county administrators or who handles those budgets seen this coming? By going through all those budgets within the last few years, the PERS have gone up tremendously. I have been doing analysis and putting it together through department to department. And the administrative department itself has gone from, I believe, 7 employees to 13, which are all higher paying employees. So those are the things that, as a public, where our general fund comes from is our taxes, I would prefer that stuff like that get looked into and understand it more before we approve the budgets that are coming up, I believe, in September or October. I could have that wrong. You guys can correct me. But these are things that I think that we should definitely be looking into, because in the outlook is in 27, 28 is a $12 million deficit. And then again, like I've expressed, 30, 31 is looking at 71 million. So this is something we can look into. And if PERS are too high, then maybe it's time to change PERS. When we have the higher freeze, I was watching one of the Scotts Valley community meeting, and they're talking about how Public Works is hiring more people. It's going to get the job done faster. But where's all this funding's coming from when we are looking at major deficits? So please, as board members, please look into this. You have time to go through it. I'm just a community member, and I'm taking my time and I'm going through each one of those budgets and looking at where the cost have increased, if the cost is legible. And in there, it keeps saying with inflation for the cost of those PERS per the cost of people's living is substantially higher than what people are living off of. So please look into that. And then I also want to clear the record for the tree mortality. I was told that it was only been studied in 2022. I was referencing when Governor Jerry Brown had started this, and they have been doing it in Northern California since 2015. Also, I want to thank them for getting back with my Public Records Act, but they still didn't answer all my questions. It was stated that Cobb was the epicenter. There's no proof that Cobb was the epicenter. All of Lake County has this problem. It's not just Cobb. Yes, Cobb has rain. Yes, Cobb has snow. Live trees fall during the wintertime on Cobb due to snow. So they're going to have a problem with trees falling down during the wintertime no matter what. So just to clarify for the record.
Thank you, Sterling. That was your timer. Do we have anyone else? No other hands? I'm going to close public comment and bring back to our next item, which will be our 903 item, Pet of the Week.
Good morning. I'm Officer Palaio with Animal Control, and today we have Landon with us. Landon has been with us just about a month, and we believe he is a cattle dog. Kind of looks like a blue heeler, and he has a pretty face. As you can see, he's really well-mannered, and he loves to get a lot of pets. He is ready for somebody that wants a dog to just cuddle with all day. He's very friendly, like I said, and we've had him a month. And if you guys have questions about him, we do have him down at the shelter at 4949 Hellbush Drive here in Lakeport. And if you have any questions, you could call us as well at 707-263-0278. We do have a vaccine clinic tomorrow between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. No appointments needed. It's going to be at our shelter as well. So if you guys need to get some vaccines for your dogs, your cats, bring them on by, and we'll be ready for you. Thank you.
Thank you for coming in today. Anybody have any questions or comments?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to our 905 item, which is new and noteworthy at the library, and we have our director online. I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Beach.
Thank you. So Christopher Veach, County Librarian. Thank you for giving me just a few minutes to talk about what's new and noteworthy at the library. This month, I want to highlight the nonfiction title, This Land is Your Land, A Road Trip Through U.S. History by Beverly Gage, which is on our displays for the America 250 celebration. Beverly Gage is a historian and professor of American history at Yale. Her book, G-Man, J. Edgar Hoover and the Making of the American Century, received numerous awards, including the Pulitzer Prize for biography. In This Land is Your Land, Gage travels the country to see the museums, historic sites, roadside attractions, reenactments, and souvenir shops where Americans learn about our history. Publisher Weekly writes, Gage offers a gregarious travelogue turned history lesson on how history is made. The narrative dances gracefully between Gage's recapping of the events themselves and her wry commentary on the sometimes silly, sometimes moving, but always weirdly American ways they have come to be memorialized. From her travels, she gamely draws the conclusion that in every era, someone was sure that the moment of collapse had finally arrived, but that Americans never stop agitating for progress that lives up to the country's founding ideals. You can find titles through our online library catalog, which has the combined resources of Lake, Sonoma, and Mendocino County Library Systems. You can check out this title as an ebook or audiobook, or visit your local branch to check it out in print. Next, I want to give you a quick update on our library system upgrade. We are currently migrating our core database to a new platform, and there will be some temporary impacts on our services through July and August. The migration will occur July 27th through August 4th. During that week, we will be offline, but patrons can still check out books and use digital apps like Libby and Hoopla. We won't be able to issue new library cards, process returns, and the online catalog will be view only. On August 5th, most of our normal services will resume with a temporary catalog, and we expect everything to be 100% restored with our catalog and mobile app back online on August 23rd. Our staff has been training on the new system and will be available to help patrons during the transition. We really appreciate everyone's patience as we complete the system upgrade. And you can learn more about our library system at our website at library.lakecountyca.gov, or of course, come visit your local library branch in Lakeport, Clear Lake, Middletown, Upper Lake, or on the Bookmobile. Thanks again for listening to what's new and noteworthy at the library.
Thank you, Mr. Veach. Any comments from board members? Not seeing any public comment? Not seeing any. We have 7 minutes until the timed items start. Do you think we can handle 5.16?
I don't have the director responding at
Okay.
this time, so you may wish to do
Okay.
calendars.
What was that, calendars?
You may wish to do calendars.
Okay, go ahead. Is anybody ready?
I'm not ready. I'm not
not
locked out
sure
of my
if we're-
computer.
5-minute break.
Good.
Try rebooting your computer.
I'm going to call our meeting back to order, and we're going to handle our pulled item, which was 5.16. And we'll be setting as the Lake County Sanitation District Board of Directors for this item. And it is to approve amendment number 2 between the Lake County Sanitation District, Lake Osan, Northwest Wastewater Treatment Plant, and Clear Lake Oaks County Water District for the acceptance of effluent for 25 years and authorize the chair to sign. I believe Supervisor Sabate requested the discussion, so I want to give you an opportunity to start, if you would.
Yes, we, 3 months ago, did a new 25-year agreement between Calpine and Lake Osan. And here we are doing something similar with Clear Lake Oaks County Water District. I have concerns that there are no financials when there is the potential for financials. For example, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but in the revised version in the past, Clear Lake Oaks County Water District was responsible for the pipeline 100%. And now there is a nuance between a minor repair and a major repair, which could lead to Lake Osan having to put in some funding. I'd like to have a breakdown of who in Lake Osan is responsible for that. Is that Northwest? Is that Southeast? Is that a conglomerate and it's a shared thing? Because I'm feeling like we're getting pieces of the puzzle, and I'm not sure that everybody is providing their fair share or not. And that includes, not that I'm here to stand up for them, but that includes Clear Lake Oaks County Water District. I don't know, I don't want any ratepayers not to have to pay any more than they should be paying to ensure that we are sharing the burden of this effluent pipeline, which is not a full circle, but we still call it the full circle. And to do a 25-year, in my conversation that I had with Director Bore, and appreciated the conversation, the 25-year contract or agreement that we made with Calpine is millions of dollars worth of potential changes that were done. We were not provided any dollar signs, any financial data. Here we're doing something similar at a much lower level because it's only 3.5 miles worth of pipeline, but I have no true understanding on what is the effect and impact on the ratepayers and which ratepayers are paying what. And I had asked during our rate increase for Southeast to get a full breakdown of the full circle pipeline and who's paying for what. Because in my mind at this moment in time, I do not believe that it is an equitably shared burden, because I just don't have the data and information to say that it is. And if I don't have that level of information, I can't approve what we have in front of us. I require much more. This is not a transparent process for the public. They don't know what the impacts are and how that will affect future rate fee increases. And I would like to have more information to be able to say I am confident with the information that we have that this is the correct changes that we need to make. But to approve this on a 25-year basis without any understanding of what the financial impacts, I think is just not fiscally responsible on our end to move forward. As I also had stated for the Calpine, it could be the right agreement. I think we need to have an agreement, but we need to have more information to say that this is the right agreement.
Okay. Director Bore, can you provide more information?
Yeah, so yesterday we provided the flows out of the different systems, as well as Diana Mann is on the phone from Clear Lake Oaks Water for if she wants to provide any comments. But this agreement is strictly with Lake Osan to transport the effluent and cooperate with Clear Lake Oaks Water for the effluent pipeline. Clear Lake Oaks Water owns the 3.5 mile pipeline that connects the Northwest system with Southeast, and they installed it, and they have done 100% of the maintenance for the last 25 years. And so when it came up to renew the other agreement, we postponed this agreement to ensure that the other one was done with the geysers. We are under contract to send all of our effluent to the geysers from Northwest as well as Clear Lake Oaks. And so this agreement is just an agreement for us to work collaboratively on the 3.5-mile pipeline. Northwest pays to pump their effluent from Northwest, from E1, what we call effluent 1, to E2, which is right there at Clear Lake Oaks, and pays to pump it over the hill. Clear Lake Oaks pays to pump their effluent over the hill to Southeast, and then the Calpine picks up those shares and pumps it the rest of the way, and Southeast pumps their share to the location where Calpine then pumps it up. So this is not a financial burden on Southeast in any way, and it's basically our contractual obligation to ensure that we send our effluent over there, and allowing us to work with Clear Lake Oaks to both help maintain the pipeline as well as for us to be able to use the pipeline. We do not have our own connection. So without this 3.5-mile pipeline, the effluent from Northwest cannot go anywhere.
Okay, so if I understand that right, this 3.5 miles of pipe belongs to Clear Lake Oaks
Correct.
District, and we haven't been paying to do any maintenance on it or anything.
No.
But Northwest pays, how much do they pay to?
We have not been paying anything to Clear Lake Oaks, and under this agreement, we still wouldn't have quote unquote a cost share where we would pay a monthly thing. Our staff would work collaboratively with them for the inspection and maintenance of the system, and we would share costs on anything over $10,000. So if we have to replace a valve or something on the actual pipeline, if we have to do cathodic protection, if we have to do anything like that, it will be a collaborative thing between Clear Lake Oaks and Northwest, and it would be burdened by Northwest. It's their effluent going across there, but it's a 25-year-old pipeline, and Clear Lake Oaks has been maintaining it 100%. So this is just to talk about fair to the ratepayers. This is actually more equitable to Clear Lake Oaks instead of making them burdened with Northwest's responsibility to have a share in that maintenance.
Okay. Do we have any other supervisor questions at this point?
And what I would say is this agreement at this moment in time expired in July 2025, I believe. So we've had kind of on a month-to-month basis ongoing. So I don't think if we were in danger, we would have gotten this a long time ago. So I don't think we're in danger of any issues. And I still think that we need a true financial breakdown and understanding. I appreciate the summary, but I think we need to have data provided to the public, data provided to us, a breakdown on how it functions and how it works. Because I have asked questions, and I will say at this moment in time, I don't have enough information to say that this is fair and equitable, other than it appears to be, but I don't have the data to support it at this moment in time. So.
Diana, do you have any maintenance information or anything like that? I know you guys have been maintaining this. I know your staff are walking it and that kind of stuff to actually maintain it. And you've had a few minor expenses.
Yeah, right, Robin. You're absolutely right. The cost has been minimal over the last 25 years. We've replaced a few gate valves, a few air valves. We inspect it monthly. So the cost, I'm not understanding what the supervisor's asking. The cost is minimal unless there's a catastrophe and the pipe breaks and we're all going to be on hand to fix it. Otherwise, like Robin said, my ratepayers has been bearing this cost by themselves for the last 25 years. All maintenance, all inspections, everything. And we've actually used to pay Lacasan for I don't know what reason. I don't know who entered that agreement 25, 26 years ago. So this is a more fair for both parties. Lacasan sends more effluent through that pipe than we do. We're a very small district. So I'm not understanding what the supervisor's asking regarding ratepayer, money. It's something that's got to be done.
We lost you. What happened to her?
Did we lose her? Okay, so it sounds like Supervisor Sabati or,
I'm back.
Oh,
okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to do this on the phone and the phone rings and then it cuts me off and I apologize for that. I do not have a specific line item for that pipeline. It just falls under my sewer budget. I could probably try to get some numbers together, but if I don't mean to sound like I'm not a team player, but I can shut off that valve. We have been working without a contract for over a year. I don't want to shut off Lacasan's valve. I don't want to cause a situation, but I need this passed. My board is very upset that this has been prolonged. We've been very patient. You guys took your time with the, that needed to be taken with the geysers. And now we're facing this whole pipeline by ourselves again. And it leaves our ratepayers very vulnerable. So I sent flows over to Robin yesterday. I'm sure she passed that on to the board so they have ideas of what our flow is, what their flow is. And the numbers, when it comes to affecting our ratepayers or your ratepayers, is nominal. But if there is an emergency and that pipeline busts, it's going to be for both of us, yes.
And the numbers that Diana's talking about, she sent 165 million gallons through it last year in 2025, and Northwest sent 625 million gallons through it.
And we paid for all that pumping. So to be fair, I'm just asking for a major repair cost of over $10,000. I do want to work with Robin's staff, teach them. I don't even believe the Lacasan staff has even really worked on that pipeline, so I want to bring them in, educate them on how that pipeline is inspected every month, show them where the vaults are, show them where the gate valves are, and educate the Lacasan staff more than they have been in the past because it's been strictly solely ran by us.
Okay, thank you. So she said she could possibly get some more numbers together. Is there like a capital improvement plan for that pipeline? Or like we know what?
It's a force main pipe, and it's been installed 25 years ago. A force main can last, in our industry up to 100 years. So what we're really talking about are valves and pumps and that kind of stuff. The wear items that we're working on. Diana said, that they've replaced some of the air release valves, some gate valves and stuff like that. Our pumps are completely separate from her pumps, so we wouldn't be sharing in like pump costs. What we're looking at is if, replacing air release valves, gate valves, those are relatively cheap items, as well as just a collaborative effort of our staff walking the line with them, being able to getting to a point where, they inspect it one month, we expect it the next month, so that there's more collaboration between the overall maintenance of the system. We are not expecting that we're going to have to replace that 3.5 mile pipeline anytime soon. But like she said, if there's a catastrophic failure for some unknown reason, that would be something that we would share, and Northwest would. But it's in Northwest's best interest to be able to send the effluent to Southeast, because keep in mind that reservoir is very small, and within a few months it will be full. And our sprinkler system would have to be completely redone if we aren't able to send our effluent to the geysers.
Okay, that sprinkler system has not been used in quite some time, right?
Well over 25 years, the entire time that the geyser pipeline, as soon as that went live, they stopped maintaining it. It's in complete disarray. The pump stations don't work, as well as the sprinkler lines and stuff have not been maintained, so they would all have to be replaced.
Okay. Supervisor Sabati?
Yeah, I appreciate Ms. Mann's comments. I think that shutting off a valve would put both of us in jeopardy, because I doubt they have the infrastructure either to be able to deal with the effluent that they have to deal with. I'm just thinking, in 25 years, we're talking millions of potential dollars, and there's been no financial conversation. That's all I'm asking. It's just, I'm not saying I want to shut anything off. I just want to make sure that we have an understanding and the public has an understanding, because we are signing 25-year agreements with no understanding whatsoever other than it feels good, it sounds right, and that's not enough for me to be able to say yes today. I don't want to say no. I just think that we are moving forward with a complete lack of information, and it's the second time, and I'm going to do the same thing I did last time, which last time I messed up and I had to ask to retract. But I can't approve something without the full information, and this lacks dollar signs in our memo, dollar signs in the agreement, and it adds a potential catastrophic situation where we do have to pay for things and no analysis of what that potential could cost and how it's going to be paid for. So I just think that we need to do better, and I don't want to be held with a gun to my head that I have to approve something today because it's taken so long. That's not where we make the best decisions.
Supervisor Crandall.
I have what I need to move forward, so if,
What was that?
I have what I need to move forward, so, I mean, I've heard Supervisor Sabatier say the same thing twice, and I get it, I know where he stands. It doesn't change the outcome of where I stand with it, so if we want to move forward, I'm ready. If we want to push it until later, and that's the will of the board, we can do that too.
So I would like to add that the renegotiation of the geyser agreement that we recently have passed was a $7 million increase to Lake Sand, with that additional contribution from the Calpine and NCPA side of things, where they picked up additional costs, and they are contributing $100,000 a year for the maintenance of Northwest Pipeline through all the way to Southeast. So that's where we're expecting, if we have any additional expenses associated with this pipeline, that there is that offset already. And like I said, it was a $7 million positive for the last contract that we just did with Calpine. Or 7 million, sorry.
So what, to address Supervisor Sabatier's concern, what would it take to bring back more financial information?
I'm not hearing that Diana really has more financial information. It's been minimal expense for the actual maintenance. We're talking, the main portion of this maintenance is going to be staff time, which is already contributed to the different districts to maintain the system. So we aren't expecting that we're going to have to replace a 3.5 mile pipeline. We have a far larger pipeline from Northwest to Clear Lake Oaks. And
Okay. Did Supervisor Owen have, go ahead.
I have zero control over Clear Lake Oaks and their process. I want them to be treated fairly, but Lake Sand has a major stake that we just don't have the information. So to me, it's not specifically, I need information from Clear Lake Oaks. I have no control over that. It's the better understanding of Lake Sand, what the costs are. I want to make sure that we are not subsidizing Calpine's operations, and I don't have any information to prove that that is not the case. I can prove that that is the case in the past, but I don't have enough information to say that that is the case today. And I need to have that information.
All right, Supervisor Owen.
You know, I think I had felt a little uncomfortable as well. I want to know more I would like to know. I could go with it. That's not the problem. But I would still like to know the financials on it as far as what the costs actually are. The threat of closing a valve I thought was absurd, and could be very liable. But as far as the cost and what it is costing, and when this comes up again, those are things, it would be nice to know what the actual costs are. And I do know that when they are picking up, I understand the pumping, but at the same time, they would be pumping out onto distributing the waters, the effluent, which now they have a place for it to go. So I would like to just know that what the actual costs are.
So I'm not following what costs you guys are actually asking for. We did, when we did the geyser agreement through the steering committee, went through the financials very in detail. That information has also been provided to Supervisor Sabatier, so I could send that out again. However, as Diana said, there has been very minimal costs for us to go back and say how much this system is going to cost us. It's literally basically her staff time inspecting the 3.5 mile pipeline that we will then be sharing. She's replaced a couple valves. That's pretty much the only expenses we have.
Right.
So
But she alluded to, we've covered all the expenses as if they were astronomical. And it sounds like they were pretty minimal with the exception of the pumping costs. I know that
she's not
through
talking about the pumping cost. She's talking about the staff time.
Okay.
So that's what she's saying. That we have not, as Lake Sand, set foot on that 3.5 mile pipeline.
I understand.
And so that is the significant cost that she has paid. She has also paid Lake Sand for, I'm not quite sure why, but in the original agreement, they paid Lake Sand a fee.
Okay. If I can finish now. There were things that came up during the negotiations of the pipeline that I wasn't aware, like the dredging of the lines, for instance. So there was cost associated with the sludge, where you guys had to clear the lines. Do you remember those conversations?
I don't believe that they have done sludge removal in a force main of affluent.
Okay.
Sludge is removed
I misunderstood.
before the gray water is sent.
Okay.
It functions much more of like a water pipe at that point.
Okay.
There, all of the solids have been removed that
Okay.
are pushed through there.
All right.
All right, I need to open it up to the public.
I have my
Gavin.
hand up.
What's that? Public open right now. What was that?
I have my hand up.
Go ahead,
that-
Diana.
Am I okay to talk?
Well,
Go ahead.
Well, to me, I'm sorry.
Yes, do you have a comment, Diana?
Yeah, just to reinsure, I agree. Robin, to reiterate what Robin said, is it's been minimal repair and cost. We've kept inspection on this pipe every month to ensure that to prevent as much as a catastrophe as possible. Shutting a valve off is not liable. I've been working without a contract for over a year. I've been very patient until Lacasan got an agreement with geysers. And so I've been fully responsible for this pipeline. The future costs, that's anybody's guess. I don't have those exact numbers. I can tell you about a few valves that we've replaced, the air valves we replaced over the last 10 years, but it's been very minimal. And so for the fact that you guys need numbers, I'm like Robin, I don't understand what numbers you would need. There's no sludge in it whatsoever. All solids have been taken out and it's strictly treated effluent that's going through that pipeline. So dredging that pipe, I have no idea what you're discussing. But the fact of the matter is, it's a 3.5 mile pipeline. And it's a lot. And we've been bearing the cost. And like Robin said, the original agreement made Clear Lake Oaks, we were paying $3,000 to $4,000 a month to special districts. For whatever reason, I don't know. But that agreement, it favored special districts in Lacasan for the last 25 years. I'm just asking for fairness. I'm asking that Lacasan vote or special districts step up and bear some of the burden of that pipeline. That is very important to the both of us.
Okay, thank you. In the room?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Tom Lasik. I don't think Supervisor Sabatier's questions have been answered, and having sit through a variety of these meetings, I just feel that as a standard practice, if you're going to have a contract and you don't have the financials there, you don't show up. You're not ready. And I just see this happening not just with the Board of Supervisors. I know you're acting as directors for this situation, but over and over and over again, people say, well, just trust me, it's going to be fine. You're talking about, as was mentioned, a 25-year contract with no numbers. Even if the numbers are nominal, that should be documented. Even if it's no big deal, it should be documented. And I think what I'm hearing from director, I guess in this moment, Sabatier, he just wants to see the numbers. If you don't understand why you need numbers and you're talking about a contract, I've never entered into a meeting with any of my leadership without the financials. That should not be a complicated, confusing, strange thing. And I would also say that this over-the-barrel conversation, I think this is like the 8th time in 4 or 5 months that people have come before the board saying, you have no choice, you got to sign this. We're out of money. If you don't sign it, we all turn into pumpkins. We all break federal law. We all have to lay people off. We have to close a valve. That's not good management. You know, take the week or two to get your numbers right, and probably is exactly how the director says, but without the numbers, you can't tell. And it should be a standard practice that any director that comes before you with a contract of any length has the numbers and the risks and all of those things laid out so you can make a fully informed decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you want to go next?
Can I respond to that?
No, not right. Hang on one second.
I'll wait till.
You'll wait? Okay. Yeah.
I just wanted to point out that in the staff report, we did talk about the expenses, and all operation and expenses and maintenance expenses are already approved in our existing budget, and we do not expect that we need any additional funding over and above what's already approved in the Lake Osand Northwest budget.
Okay, thank you. Was there anyone else in the room? No, not seeing anyone online? Natasha, if you could state your name.
Good morning, Natasha Sokolowski.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to add a comment that I agree with the previous speaker and also with Supervisor Sabatier on this requesting of more numbers for allocation purposes. And I think it affects everyone in the county. So I definitely think requesting that information is the most professional and best practice that he could possibly do for every citizen here in this county. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'll close public comment, bring it back to the board. Supervisor Crandall.
Yes, and I respect Supervisor Sabatier's request. It makes sense, you know, in consistency with the things that he's asked for. These are the type of things that you asked for. So I'm not upset about it or trying to, what I don't really appreciate is a lot of comments from the public that conflate, this is a specific situation. Not all situations are the same. So there's a lot of conflation on, you know, transparency and all these things. This situation has been outstanding for a year. This group has been waiting for a year as well. So one can say the same thing about the same dynamic. So that's why I'm in the position to move forward. They've already explained to me the costs, the nominal costs. I do understand the need for other costs to make sure that we're not supplementing or giving Calpine a lot more, you know, what's the word you used? I think it was subsidizing them. So I understand that, but I'm at the point where I don't feel over the barrel. I don't appreciate the comment that was made. I think that was a little out there, but I know that there's a worry there by the person. So I don't feel like I'm over a barrel. I don't think there's going to be no pumpkins or anything like that I'm going to turn into. I just know that this has been an outstanding issue, and I have no issue with it. So.
All right. Supervisor.
I just want to make one final comment. I don't mean to confuse my comments in the sense that my concerns of financials are between Clear Lake Oaks and Lake Osand. My concern about the financials is just the effluent pipeline as a whole and how it is split down and shared. I'll just share with you quickly. If you start at Northwest and you end up at the geysers, I feel Northwest should be paying for that pipeline down to Clear Lake Oaks, sharing the burden equitably, depending on the amount of gallons, from Clear Lake Oaks to Southeast, then sharing with Southeast equitably based on the gallons all the way out to the geysers. That's not the way that I'm understanding the system works. And so I want to have yes, I have received some financials. The public has not received financials. Financials were provided to a steering committee, but not to the board or the public. I just want to have a public conversation to better understand and be transparent as to how does the full circle effluent pipeline break down in costs and who is bearing that cost. And that's it. And until I have that understanding, I can't approve changing or amending an agreement without that level of understanding. It's not personal to Clear Lake Oaks. It's just if we're making changes, I'm making changes to something I don't understand. So I'll stop there and ready to do whatever the board chooses to do.
So, the agreement with Calpine and NCPA, what the geyser agreement that we have, that's a already passed agreement for the next 25 years with the set amount of how the expenses are going to be split. They are going to contribute $100,000 to the Northwest system for their share of the expenses from Northwest to Clear Lake Oaks over to the Southeast for the Northwest side. And then they're paying for all of the lips, so that's the lake intake structure, so they're paying 100% of that. Previously, Southeast was paying a portion of that cost, and then they're also paying basically two-thirds of the pumping the effluent from Southeast all the way to the geysers. And that the amount of effluent that's coming out of Southeast is about 30% of the total effluent that's going to the geysers. And so if the part that Southeast is picking up is less than a third of what the total flow is that's going up. And once it gets to a certain point, then geysers pay for 100% of it to go up.
All right, thank you. So it's front of the board for action or not. Go ahead, Lloyd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, as an option for your board, you have the recommended action that's stated in the memo. In light of the discussions, one option for your board, and it has been raised before, is to continue this matter, which can also be done by either consensus or motion, since it's not a public hearing.
Okay. Any comments from board about continuing the matter? Doesn't sound like we want to.
I've already made my statements.
Yeah.
It's obvious.
All right. Well, I don't see interest for that.
I think she wanted more information.
Yeah, did you?
I did. As I recall.
Microphone.
As I recall, I believe that there's actually a savings to each of the districts, the sewer districts, as in they don't have to pump and disperse the effluent in other ways. So each sewer district was supposed to pick up a portion of that cost, that their savings, basically, the actual savings from what it would cost them to get rid of the effluent to pump it, correct?
So when it comes to Middletown doesn't have any disposal expenses. Calpine actually pays, Calpine and CPA actually pay for all of that.
Mm-hmm.
The other areas, the disposal cost would be if we had to completely redo the sprinklers.
Mm-hmm.
However, the problem with the sprinkler system is in the winter, we can't sprinkle the effluent and run out of space and run the risk of spilling the reservoirs. So there was a kind of an analysis, but nobody's used the sprinklers for 25 years. Right. So there is a cost that's borne by each district that they need to pay to dispose of their effluent.
That's right.
This is an extremely cost-effective way of doing this, and a lot of those costs are offset by the geysers.
That's right. That's exactly. Thank you for articulating that. So there is a cost to each of the sewer districts, but it's less than what it would be if they had to dispose of it in other ways. So I would prefer to come back with some ideas of what those costs are, just to feel better
Well,
on the pipe, on the effluent pipeline.
I think we're gonna have to do something like that because it may not pass today.
Yeah,
It's probably not gonna pass today, so I would say that at this point, I would say we need to put some numbers together and come back with another presentation.
So are you asking for the geyser agreement numbers or just the ones that pertain to this agreement?
Well, where I said it would be pertaining to this agreement, but I think
Because I'm kind
Supervisor-
of hearing that
I think
they want
Supervisor
numbers from both.
Sabate wanted both, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah, so if we could
it would be
include,
helpful.
include those numbers that we already should have.
And you know, this is the first time this has came before us, so, it being a year out, that's not something I was aware of, but now we are, and we don't want to hold it up, it's just we would like to have some numbers.
So it sounds like, then I think we'd need a motion to or consensus, we can do that, correct? Yep. Okay. So, sounds like we'll have consensus to continue or move this item, bring it back with numbers for this specific agreement, as well as a review of numbers for the whole geyser system, correct? Did you have
And I
anything
don't know if you could include on, I mean, I know it'd be kind of a shot in the dark, but the estimated savings would also be beneficial, what the cost would be if we had to disperse of it without the pipeline. That's one of the things that I think we had talked about a little bit, but I don't remember getting the numbers when we were in the geyser negotiations.
Yeah, I mean, we can come up with an estimate of what it would cost to put the sprinkler system back, but I don't know how I'm going to quantify the amount of effluent that we aren't going to
Right.
be able to discharge. So I don't know how to
know that there's a
quantify.
big- it'd just be nice for the public to see that this is a savings, this is a benefit. Because then there's the added issue of in the wintertime, when we get a lot of rain and we cannot get rid of the effluent, and that was one of the major reasons this line was put in the first place.
All right.
Yeah, I'll
Supervisors-
talk to the engineer. Maybe they'll have to expand the reservoir or something.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Sabatier?
I would like to suggest, and I apologize for maybe the strict timeline. I'm trying not to be too strict, but if we can get it back in less than 30 days, I know that Ms. Mann is waiting for us to move forward, and I don't want this to go on and on and on. I agree with her that we shouldn't have a contract as important as this that has gone over more than a year since it's expired. So I appreciate where she is coming from and the frustration that her district is potentially feeling because we have a expired contract at this moment in time. So I would like to see if we can return with those financial numbers in less than 30 days.
Okay.
No more-
Director,
No more than 30 days.
Director Boyer, do you think that's possible?
I will have to check with the engineer on the cost estimates and stuff like that, but we can shoot for that.
Let's shoot for that.
Um,
Okay. All right, then I think we're concluded at this point.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. We'll move on to our 6.3B item. This is a 9:30 item, addendum, consideration of donation from Calpine Corporation for America 250 Drone Show. And so what's going on is back in April, Supervisor Sabati and I were authorized to work with the CAO and the two cities regarding America 250 celebrations, decorations, etc., beginning on Memorial Day and extending through Labor Day for the 250th anniversary. One of the ideas that was discussed in our committee meetings was to add 2 drone shows in the county, one in the south part of the county, one in the north part of the county, to give more activities for the public to celebrate America's birthday. So we decided to seek major donors for those. We talked to Calpine. They immediately, right away, agreed to sponsor $20,000 to sponsor the show in the South County area. We also sought other major donors. We weren't successful. So Supervisor Sabatier and I agreed that we would share the cost of the Lakeport show so that we could still have 2 shows. We didn't want to just do one, so there was more opportunity. So we agreed to cover that at the second $20,000. And so the reason this is in front of the board today is because we can't use that money unless the board formally accepts it, because we have a policy that says any donations from outside to the county over $10,000 require a full board approval. So that's what's in front of the board today, to approve the use of the Calpine donation. And then if that gets approved, then we'll confirm and move forward with these 2 shows. Go ahead, Supervisor Sabatier.
Yeah, and I appreciate the collaboration on that, and I'm looking forward to this and hoping it's a new venture that we can see more and more in the future before the state of California bans fireworks, which I'm sure that might happen in the future, who knows. But August 8th is the slated day for the City of Clear Lake's drone show. That will be after a concert that is already arranged for that time. I'm not sure if there is a specific date for the second show at this moment.
I'll address that. The second show is going to be, or the other show will be August 7th. There's a little complexity that's going to be figured out by noon today, and that's whether or not the show in Lakeport can happen at Library Park because of the tree cover and the drone companies not wanting to put all the drones over water. So that's being figured out, and it could be in a parking lot north of Library Park, or it could be at Hobotten Park. We're going to have that confirmed by noon today, but it'll definitely be on August 7th, because it's one company. They're going to come up here and spend 2 days to do these. So and the times will be at dark time, just like the fireworks. I don't know the exact, but the county will be putting out a collaborative press release today after the Lakeport location is finalized. So hopefully that covers the rest of it. And unless there's questions from the board, I'll open it to the public for any comments or discussion. I'm not seeing any in the room. Yes, Mr. Mockel, our PIO.
Good morning, Supervisor Trevor Mokel, Administrative Analyst. We are grateful for Calpine's support of these historic events. I've been asked to share a quote from Amy Blaine, Senior Vice President of Calpine Geothermal Region. Lake County has been the home of the geysers for generations, so we are proud to support an event that brings neighbors, families, and friends together to celebrate in a safe, innovative way while fostering connections and making our community strong. Thank you.
Thank you, and I appreciate that offer of further information from Calpine. We definitely do appreciate all the support that they provide in the county. Was there anyone online, Joe? No. No. Okay. I'll close public comment and bring it back to the board for action.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the donation from Calpine Corporation for the America 250 drone show with the $20,000 donation provided.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, that carries 4-0. Thank you. And next we will move on to our 10 a.m. 6.4 item. Public hearing continued from June 23rd, June 2nd, May 19th, and April 28th, 2026. Consideration of a resolution approving resolutions submitted by Lake County fire agencies and making findings, and requesting the County of Lake to implement fire mitigation fees with the automatic inflation pursuant to Lake County Fire Mitigation Fee Ordinance. And Supervisor Sabatier is going to introduce this item.
Thank you very much, Chair. So every year since 2024, I believe, since we approved of all of the nexus studies that the fire districts had done. They have the ability to increase their fees based on an building engineering rule. I don't have the exact lingo in mind at this moment. So this is not based on CPI. This is based on building construction cost increases on a year-to-year basis. This year it has gone up, or in the past year, it has gone up 4.3376%. And so all of the fire districts took their last base year, added that percentage to it. They also have a administrative surcharge of 2% that they added to that amount. And so you see all of the resolutions that were passed by all of our fire districts. Do want to highlight one that we accidentally uploaded a previous resolution. I've created some confusion where I've made a request to change some of the numbers. The numbers were not either off by a penny, off by 2 pennies, and so on and so forth. I want to make sure that we're not charging more than we are allowed to charge, but I also want to make sure that the fire districts are maximizing what they're able to charge. And so we were able to get all the correct ones, but in that confusion, we did put in the original May 20th instead of the July or June 17th one for Kelseyville. And so the numbers that you see up above, where the base year was $1.49 in 25-26, the auto annual inflation is 0.06 when you add the 4.3376%. Overall giving a new base fee for 26-27 of $1.55 per square foot. You add the 2% administrative surcharge, which is 3 cents, and you get a total fee amount for 26-27 of $1.58. Just wanted to highlight that change. That is not a change that we are amending. That is based on the last approved resolution that Kelseyville has done. That changes nothing in the resolution that we will be approving because it still is calling the correct title of the resolution that was passed.
Thank you. Any
Hopefully
questions?
that
Board member?
clarifies.
Thank you. Any board member questions? I just want to mention one that I had a public question about, and that was the automatic annual inflation rate, and how that's figured out is because of it's called the Engineering News Record Building Cost Index 20 City Average, which, if I'm not mistaken, is somewhere out of the Bay Area that this is figured out, and they come up with that inflation rate that is used by the fire districts here. So I just wanted to mention that. Go ahead.
And just last thing, that information is public. Anybody can find that online in order to make sure that we are using the correct percentage. And I do want to thank everyone's patience with me, and especially Carolyn Purdy for her patience as she's dealt with me dealing with these numbers since we started this process. So thankful.
And Caroline's here. Did she want to say anything? No. Okay. All right. Then I think we can open it to the public. Do we have anyone in the room? Not seeing any. Anyone online? Not seeing any. I'll close public comment and bring it back to the board for action.
Mr. Chair, I offer the resolution.
The resolution's been offered.
Supervisor Owen?
Aye.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Aye.
Supervisor Crandall?
Yes.
And Supervisor Rasmussen?
Aye. That carries 4-0. And next, we will move on to our 6.5, which is a 10:05 item, a public hearing, consideration of recommendation of revocation of major use permit UP 19-48. The permittee is Kenneth Pacheco, authorizing commercial cannabis activity of up to 87,120 square feet of canopy area and up to an additional 25 mature plants located at 1756 Augulin Canyon Road in Clear Lake with an APN number 010-055-46. And it's been brought to my attention that this item actually needs to go to the Planning Commission before being heard in front of the Board of Supervisors. So that's what we're going to discuss right now.
Thank you. Mireya Turner, Director of Community Development. I appreciate that County Council
notified me that I was misreading the article regarding the process, and so yes, I would request that this one, and then I'll make the request at the next revocation hearing in a few minutes, that they both be removed from today's agenda so that we can direct them to the Planning Commission first.
Okay. Thank you. And I did get, just for the record, several questions from the public about why was this in front of the board and not at the Planning Commission? And I did read the article, I believe it's Article 60 that discusses this. And I do agree with the county council assessment, although I also think that that ordinance is, or that article is not very well written in that it creates confusion in making statements about it being able to go in front of the board or the Planning Commission. So I think, not for dealing with today, but just as a note, it definitely confused me. So any other questions from the board about moving this? And I'm going to open it up to the public, but the comments, we're not going to get into the details of the hearing. We're just talking about right now, we're going to take this off our agenda. And I'm not seeing anyone in the room, not seeing anyone in line. So do we need just a consensus, Lloyd, to take this off the agenda, or? Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So yes, the answer is yes, because this isn't a continuance of an item. It's not going to be rescheduled to another date. So essentially consensus for your board to just pull this item withdrawn from your board's agenda.
Okay, we have consensus to take it off? Yes. Okay, so it's removed.
Thank you.
I'll move on to the next one, and I'll go ahead and do it. Can I? No.
Yeah, 11.
I cannot move on to that one.
Too early?
It's 11, set for 11 a.m., right?
Oh.
What was that?
5.10.
Okay, we're going to go to 5.10. Sorry about that, I didn't look at the time.
It's a new thing for us.
Yeah, right. So 5.10, this is a second reading, adopt ordinance to amend Chapter 21, Articles 8, 18, 19, and 27 of the Lake County Code regarding commercial cannabis regulations. And we have our Community Development Director here.
Thank you.
I'll turn it over to you.
I did review the public input that requested that this item be pulled from consent. Happy to discuss those points should the board want to go over them again, because we've been talking about all those points for the last 3 years. But what I'd like to do is walk the board through a few typographical corrections, non-substantive, but just the way I originally wrote the ordinance. I had everything in parentheses because I thought that's just how you write them. But I have learned that in the existing code where there is no parentheses, you don't use that, you use a point afterwards. And so I have made those corrections to a number of these citations throughout the document. Should the board want, I can walk you through those.
Okay, so do we want to go through those first? Yeah.
Great.
Let's do that.
Okie doke. On page 5, letter C, I had an XXX just as a placeholder. I'm removing that. And the citation should read as 27.13 AT, which are in parentheses, and then 1.I.
I didn't even see that XXX.
Yeah, I missed it until this morning, so. Section D, item D, 27.13, parentheses AT, 1.II, point E in parentheses. Section E, 27.13, parentheses AT, 1.II, point, and then F is in parentheses. Section F, 27.13, AT is in parentheses, 1.II, point G is in parentheses, and 1 is in parentheses. Next section G, 27.13, AT is in parentheses, 1.II, H is in parentheses, and so is C in parentheses. Section H, 27.13, AT is in parentheses, 1.II, and then L is in parentheses. I, section I, 27.13, AT is in parentheses, 1 point II, and then M is in parentheses. Section J. Section 27.13, AT in parentheses, 1 point II point Q is in parentheses. Next, section K. 27.13, AT is in parentheses, 1 point II, and then R is in parentheses. And just for those watching at home, we're on page 9. Next, section L. 27.13, AT is in parentheses, 1 point II point S in parentheses. Next one, section M. 27.13, AT in parentheses, 1 point II, and then T is in parentheses. Next page, section N. 27.13, AT, 1 point II point G is in parentheses.
Can I interrupt and just
Certainly.
ask real quick? So there's no point between parentheses, AT, close parentheses, just 1? There's not a point 1?
I think there is a point. Sorry, left that out.
And then, so there's a point in between all of them unless it's parentheses to parentheses?
That is my understanding, but I defer to county council.
I just wanted to check in because I thought I heard both, and I just, if we can have, I guess,
Consistency?
a final comment of, we will be consistent that if it's from a parentheses to a parentheses, there is no point. If it's from a parentheses to a non-parentheses, there is a point, or a non-parentheses to a parentheses, there is a point. If that is the case, then
I'm happy to defer to Lloyd because there is no training on how to write these things, so I defer to county council.
Go ahead, County Council.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So typically, and even in our county code as drafted, you see these little minor discrepancies there, but the general rule of thumb is as long as it's understandable enough for purposes of citing to it, it may work. Now, that being said, there's always an option to amend even the ones that are currently in place in our code. And for our purposes here, yes, typically the citations between parentheses, subsections, would not require a point in between. Typically, a citation that includes a subsection within a parentheses followed by a non-parentheses subsection would not have a point in between. However, a non-parentheses number or subsection followed by a parentheses subsection typically would have a point in between. So that's usually the general rule of thumb of citations. And I see here that for the most part it's been fairly consistent in the ordinance here. Again, as I said in the beginning, generally speaking, if it's something that can be reasonably cited to, then that would work, even if it diverges from the usual rules of practice or the usual practice of how parentheses citations are cited next to non-parenthetical citations.
All right, go ahead.
Feeling a little more confused than before county council explained it, but I will continue. Is this, did I leave off at N? I think I'm on page 10.
Yeah, you were.
Section O, 27.13, AT is in parentheses. There might be a point after that. Number 1, point V, and then C is in parentheses, with or without a point in between. Section P, 27.13, AT in parentheses, 1 point V, and then K is in parentheses. Q, 27.13, AT in parentheses, 1 point VI point D point, and then the V is in parentheses. No, it's not. Sorry, it's not. Next one, R, 27.13, AT parentheses, 2 point I point A in parentheses, and then B is not. Section S, bottom of page 10, 27.13, AT is in parentheses, point 2, point I. B is in parentheses, point D is not, and then 8 is in parentheses, possibly with a point before it. Section T, 27.13, AT in parentheses, point 2, point I, point B, point D, point 10 in parentheses, and then I is in parentheses.
And can I interrupt on that? That will be, if approved, that is an amendment rather than a, because of the B that was missing on that.
I inadvertently left the B out of this version, yes. Next one. But I would like to consider that a typographical error, not a substantive change, if Lloyd agrees. Section U, 27.13, AT is in parentheses, point 4, point I, and then within the text of section U, line 13 on page 12, that citation is also changed to 27.13, AT in parentheses, point 4, point I. Next section V, 27.13, AT in parentheses, point 4, point I. Section W, 27.13, AT in parentheses, point 5, point I. Next page. Section X, 27.13, AT in parentheses, point 6. Next section Y, 27.13, in parentheses is AU, and then point 4, point VI. Section Z, bottom of page 13, section 27.13, AU in parentheses, point 5. Next page. Oops, sorry. AA, sorry, 27.13, AU in parentheses, point 6. BB, 27.13, AU in parentheses, point 7, point I. CC at the bottom of this page, 27.13, AU in parentheses, point 8, point I. Next page, page 15. Section DD, 27.13, AU in parentheses, point 9. Section EE, 27.13, AU in parentheses, point 28, point VII. Section FF, 27.13, AU in parentheses, point 29. GG, 27.13, AU in parentheses, point 32. Next page. Almost done. HH, section 27.13, AU in parentheses, point 33. And lastly, section II at line 24, 27.13, AU in parentheses, point 34. That is the extent of the typographical amendments or corrections for today.
Okay, any more questions on those? Go ahead, Supervisor.
Just a quick question for County Council. Because of the changes, while non-substantive, is this still a second reading, or does it need to be pushed? Because one of them was, some of it was bringing from parentheses to non-parentheses. One of them was alluding to a wrong section that needed to be changed. So just want to make sure that, are we doing a first reading again and a second reading with all changes brought back, or are we doing a second reading?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So it can be construed or considered as minor changes, typographical errors. So the second reading can proceed on that latter between of the two items that Supervisor Sabatier brought up. If the board made that correction as part of the amendments from the first reading, then the second reading can proceed. So that's the only clarification that I would need as to, I believe there was a missing subsection B, I think it was.
Yes.
Correct.
Right. If that was discussed and considered by your board as an amendment, without specifically referencing the actual item number from the first reading, then certainly the second reading can proceed without the need for a continuance.
Just for clarification, so last week in section T that makes an amendment to section 27.13, that was correctly detailed for where that amendment would be. That changed in today's version. There was no amendment that we had made to it specifically because it was brought to us with the correct section. And so today it just happens to be missing something There was no conversation about an amendment. There was no conversation about changes from the Board of Supervisors. So just wanted to clarify to help better understand what that means.
So I would need the exact page number of where that is referenced.
I can give you that one. One moment. That would be on page 12, line 4, T, section 27.13, AT in parentheses, 2.1.I.B.D, 10I, both in parentheses. The board did discuss the addition of the subsection B last week, but it was inadvertently omitted from this week's version.
So with that, it would be it would be considered, in my opinion, as a typographical error because it was meant to be added to, but that section itself just was, or that indicator of B was not included in the current version.
Okay, any other questions on those? No?
I have questions, but not on that.
Okay, so then we'll move on to further questions.
Discussion.
Start with you.
Okay. I'm still feeling really uncomfortable with removing and making it a 10-year permit. I mean, after 10 years with no violations, that they've got a permanent permit. I'm still stuck on that. I do see that there's been some public comment on that as well. There was another item too. Sorry, I've been locked out of my computer for several days. So anyway, that's one of the issues I'm having is that, and I'll just go with that one for right now. I can't find it.
All right, any other questions or?
Supervisor Owen and I have been consistent with that.
Yeah, you have. Then I guess we'll open it to the public. Do we have anyone in the room? Anyone online? Guest. Go ahead. Identify yourself, guest.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Angela Amaral. I'm speaking out again today to encourage your board's strong reconsideration of some of the proposed cannabis ordinance changes that were included in the first reading approved last week. This week, your agenda include 2 revocations, which are now pulled from today's discussion. However, the information provided for those 2 agenda items cannot be ignored. One of the operators for a proposed revocation that is scheduled for 11 a.m. was appointed by your board to the Cannabis Ordinance Task Force as the representative and president of the Lake County Cannabis Alliance and on the Ag Advisory Committee. Over the course of several years, members of the public actively expressed concerns over potential conflict of interest in having multiple representatives on the Cannabis Task Force from the cannabis industry. Some of the modifications pushed forward by the cannabis industry representatives included the removal of the 10-year permit expiration and removal of background checks for most employees, including the person that is up for revocation. They also stated that the maximum surety bond available is $5,000. How are we as members of the public expected to have confidence in the county's cannabis program when we are consistently brushed off or not taken seriously? The revocations that were scheduled for today show a clear disregard for the county ordinance and a failure for CDD to manage the program. The Board of Supervisors is failing to provide adequate oversight of CDD and its managing of the cannabis program. The changes I and others feel need to be made to the first reading are retention of the 10-year permit requirement with 5-year extensions for compliant operations. Background checks should remain in place as long as cannabis is still federally prohibited. There are too many bad actors. The surety bond should be increased to a minimum of $15,000. Neither of the proposed revocations, should they not have be self-abated, cannot be abated for $5,000. Several counties require surety bonds in excess of $5,000, including Crescent City is $15,000, Del Norte County $15,000, Yolo County $10,000. If the board is not amenable to these changes or to another first reading or to a moratorium as discussed in the past, then put cannabis cultivation back on the ballot for voters to decide. The program we currently have is not the program we were promised when we originally voted to move forward and allow cannabis cultivation in Lake County. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else online? Go ahead. No other hands? Okay, thank you. I'll close public comment and bring it back to the board. Supervisor Owen and then Sabatier.
Well, that was interesting because I've been told multiple times here that the maximum bond would be 5,000 by law. And I had received information earlier that there's others that are higher in the state. So are we being given the correct information?
That is the information that I did have. I actually wrote down a note just to triple check, but that is the information that I got, not only from the task force, but from staff.
Okay, and that's something I think we need to look into, because I know obviously $5,000 for a bond to clean up a site is much higher. And so I felt like the resolution was I know I'd personally asked that it be then put on their tax bill if it was over and above 5,000, but now we're being told that other counties are at 15,000.
Should we expend funds through our code enforcement abatement process? That is the normal process, is that we would put it on the tax
Right,
bill.
and that satisfies.
We would follow that same
But
procedure.
I just want to make sure that we're getting correct information.
I am happy to add that to our Article 73 list if you like.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Supervisor Sabatier.
I guess I have an awkward question to ask. I know that Supervisor Crandall, you mentioned that you have been consistent with the 10 years. And I guess my awkward question is, as is, are we at a 2-2? Or, because at a 2-2, it dies, and we've done all this for nothing? Or do we need to have further conversations, because I don't want something to die here? And so knowing that you made the statement that you've been consistent, I guess the question is to everybody, not specifically to you, but you made the statement, so apologize for pointing it at you.
Okay.
But I guess, do we need to engage in more discussions? Or, because I don't want to move forward and find ourselves at a 2-2 and having done all this only to just go back to square one, because there are issues with the current ordinance that we have. So I do want to see some of the changes happen sooner than later and not have to go backwards. So I guess I'd like to just open up that dialogue of, like, I'm in favor of moving forward. If we're open to having the dialogue of one of you is not, or two of you are not, then I want to know what should we be discussing right now to make sure that we can find a way to move forward.
My response, or I guess I'll let you go first.
Okay. What I had asked for was at the 10-year mark, if they're in good standing, they've had no violations, and they've paid everything on time, that they pretty much get a 5-year extension, and it comes up every 5 years. They don't have to go through the re-permitting, but they can get the 5-year extensions onto their permit. And that's what I had asked for, so that there's some checks and balances. And
For you, it's the 10 years.
Huh?
So for you, it's the 10-year going away that you have an issue with.
I had a couple of issues. That was one of them. The other thing I had an issue with was the background checks disappearing, because we had asked for, what's your definition of full-time employees? And I don't know that that's been answered. It's been ignored, I think, unless you had mentioned it and I didn't understand it. So the fact that background checks, if they come in 35 hours a week, is that considered less than full-time? And you don't have to have a background check. So those were my two big issues.
Yeah, so as I understood, I think the biggest one was the 10-year issue, and that's where we had consensus. That's where it could be a 2-2. So I think further discussion on that seems like to me that was the big one. And as I understand right now, so they have the 10-year expiration, but with the new ordinance, if it were to pass, they did good, they had no violations, there wouldn't be any more. Basically, they continue.
It would make it similar to all of our other use permits, except for maybe the ones like mining, where they have the term limit. Most of our use permits do not have a term limit. They follow the land. I think they're 25 or 30, yeah. Most of our use permits do not have expiration dates, so.
But I don't know, I'm not sure where Supervisor Crandall is. It sounds like Supervisor Owen is suggesting at 10 years, make a modification that they get a 5-year extension. They could continue and it would be reviewed.
5 years, as long as there's
Again?
no,
And is that, Supervisor Crandall
Yeah.
likes that?
Yes.
Okay. So, and obviously that would, we'd have to do, and it would change. It wouldn't be we'd have to do another first reading if we
Oh, yeah.
were to bring a discussion back on that. But I feel like that's where we have different consensus today.
I guess I'll just speak freely. It's awkward for me to do a 10-year permit and then 5-year extensions. Like I would prefer seeing it go away, but why not just do another 10? If the first 10 were good and then the extension is allowed, a 5-year one just seems kind of rude for a good job. We're going to give you less of a permit year than the first one, right?
we can compromise on that.
And on the other side, I would say that can we build because I love the fact that we are seeing revocations. I think there's some streamlining and some ironing out of the process that I would like to see. Is there any way to strengthen our revocation process that would make you feel more comfortable? Because if we show that we are doing a process of revocations, with, in my opinion, a way to clean up your violations. I don't want to shut down businesses because they have a violation. I want to see them meet us and voluntarily comply. If they don't and they keep snubbing us, then yeah, revocation is the way to go. Is there a process in that direction that would help alleviate the 10-year permit going away?
I would meet you guys, I would be willing to go with another 10-year. That, I feel that's a good compromise from our perspective, thinking that maybe.
So you're asking what process would help, or is?
Because I hear you that I think it's possible to do a 10-10 rather than a 10-5, which I think is just more appropriate.
Okay.
I am cognizant of the time that it's going to take both for our applicants and our department to process all of these extensions versus focusing on new businesses coming into play. Bad businesses that don't comply, can we look at a stronger revocation or more firm revocation process to make you feel more comfortable with getting rid of a 10-year permit? So that, I mean, we're looking at 2 potentially here that have been moved, but they're not at their 10 years and they're getting revoked beforehand. I don't mind revoking permits for those that don't care to follow the rules, which gets rid of the 10-year process, because those that are still here after 10 years are the ones who are following the rules or making a mistake and complying with the law and moving on. I always use the analogy, and I know it's not a perfect one, but we have liquor stores who sell to minors. We're not revoking their permits. We're asking them to comply with the law and giving them the chance to continue to be a business. So is there a get rid of the 10 years and work on a more firm, more comprehensive revocation process to ensure that we don't have bad folks out there doing the work? Or is it just, no, it has to be a 10-year? I just kind of wanted to poke and see what kind of movement was possible.
Yeah, no, I think I can compromise on the 10-year. I don't know what else can be potentially. I mean, I hear what you're saying when it comes to the additional, if it's a fine or something that someone has when they go and sell alcohol to someone. I see what you're saying. I don't know if there's I mean, when it comes to who does that, ABC does that. So, like, when this situation, it's us as a county. And so, I think that the task force was given the opportunity to determine things like that. Am I correct? Yes, and I do agree that there have been some key players that have, been putting things in place that are now on revocation. So, I mean, I don't know. I just, I can compromise with the 10-10.
And I'd be okay with it, or, to say, change that to the 10-year it gets renewed for 10 years.
So yeah. If we make that change, which I'm not content with, but I'm more content with moving forward than spinning our wheels and going nowhere, it would require another first reading today, which then would come back, and not that I want to speak for Vice Chair Pyska, but I know that she is not in favor of the 10-10. Do we just do another first reading because now it's a 3-2? So I mean, I will gladly work with the team that we have here today, just because I want to make movement and I want to hear you guys and what you're asking for. So I'm happy to do another first reading, and I guess that would
This is not a quick change. I would recommend, should the board want me to fundamentally change a number of these different items, that
it would just be
we
that
just, well, no, that it ricochets throughout the whole bunch, because then their whole renewal stuff.
Deleted the whole renewal.
Exactly. So I would actually request that this just not go forward today, and we will renotice, because I'm trying to bring home the general plan as well as the low impact camping and the short-term rental stuff. So this is not going to be my top priority going forward unless the board says that I should shuffle some of that stuff around.
Did you have something else? Sue?
Well, I did, but I forgot it now.
Can we have a 5-minute break?
Yeah.
I just want to kind of think through the options and the process and what our goals are here, if you don't mind.
Yeah, we'll take a 5-minute break. I'll call our meeting back to order, and I believe where we were at, we were discussing some possible changes and whether or not it was going to be another first reading, and then what's going to happen if that happens. But my understanding, and I'll let county council weigh in, is that if we were to just make one change related to this 10-year and then getting an automatic another 10-year renewal, that it could remain a second reading. And I'll let county council weigh in on that.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So with second reading, if there's any substantive amendments made to the draft ordinance, proposed ordinance at the second reading, then your board can do a motion to have that draft ordinance be advanced to the next Board of Supervisors meeting for consideration and possible adoption. So that would be a second reading. Now, Director Turner mentioned, however, that depending on the amendments to substantive amendments proposed, that if it's gonna, if the proposed amendments would affect other code sections or other ordinances that are currently in place, such that it wouldn't just be within the scope of the draft that's being presented to your board, then that may take more time, such that, as Director Turner alluded to, it may, for purposes of just it wouldn't essentially effectively necessitate a revamp, much more so than just continuing this or moving this forward to the next Board of Supervisors reading for a second reading, such that it may necessitate another first reading renoticing, because it affects all these other code sections and ordinances. Again, depending on what's being proposed as the substantive amendments to this current draft.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Spatier. Or do you want Supervisor?
Sorry. Definitely in a little bit of a quandary here, just because of the potential timeline that I can foresee might occur. Because right now we have 4, and so we find ourselves at a 2-2 with this very specific request for a change. We would do a new first reading today if we approve that change, to bring it to a second reading on the next one, which potentially can revolve right back to a new first reading if it gets taken out. And I feel like we're just playing a dance that goes nowhere. So I feel like it's one of two ways that we need to have a 5-member board discussion again on this, which I mean, obviously seems to have led in a specific direction. I feel like all we're doing is postponing time and wasting staff time. So my suggestion is postpone the second reading till next week, because I feel all we're going to do is revert back to what we were, unless you and I, Chair, agree to move forward with this next week and just say we're done with the dance. But I appreciate the effort and the situation that we're in to get a change done that before was not doable with a 5-member board. But I worry that we're going to make the change and then we're going to right back be in a second reading where we're going to have the same conversation and potentially go back to another 3-2, which just postpones the process and ends up in the same place. And so either we change it and we say we're going to stick with that, and I'm looking at you, Chair, you and I, or we don't change it and we say we will engage in another discussion to figure out where we are when all 5 of us are here. That to me is the appropriate and fair options. Because if you and I are going to change our minds when Vice Chair Pyska is here and fighting for getting rid of the 10 years, then we just wasted another 2 weeks of staff time, the public's time, and everyone's time. So it has to be one or the other.
That's And if I could real quick, I agree at this point, after thinking about this a little more, that we need to have all 5 of us here for that discussion. So I think that's a good suggestion. Go ahead, Supervisor Rowan.
Along with that, there was.
Microphone.
Thank you. As well as that, there was 2 other issues. One of them I alluded to just a little bit ago, and I've been talking about since the reduction of the background checks has came about. And that is, I think we have not defined full-time employees. I know I'd asked for a definition of full-time employees, and I think that's something we need to set forth today to add into it. And the next item would be, with the new information on the bonds, we were told that it could not be over 5,000, and it turns out it can be. Do we need to increase the bond? So those are the 2 other issues. If we want to tackle them first and then come back to this.
Along with the 10 years is what you're saying?
Yeah, the 10-year, I just, until it is federally legal, I would feel better having those stops in place. It's just another layer of protection. It's a very minimal layer of protection. And as far as the bargaining chip that Supervisor Sabate so graciously offered, as far as
I'm trying.
you're trying, as far as the revocations, I think those need to be in place, and they should be taking place. I'm glad to see a couple of them coming forward so that people start following the laws. We have the rules in place for a reason, and those need to take place. And again, as somebody had pointed out, I think it's been pointed out twice, having somebody now in revocation that was representing the task force and the Farm Bureau and the
Not the Farm Bureau.
Ag Commissioner, okay.
No,
So,
the Ag Commissioner was actually also represented. It was the Ag Advisory Board. They were one of the members of the Ag Advisory.
That's what I meant to say.
Not
Sorry.
representing
Okay.
the Ag Advisory.
So, okay, and my mistake on that. We all know how good I am at articulating. So anyway, that's where I would like to be if I got my cup of tea.
Nice timing.
Anything else? I think where I'd be more comfortable if we had this discussion next week.
Do we want to talk about the 2 items I just brought up, or are they going to be ignored?
I think that, well, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, please, please.
Go ahead, Supervisor.
I think that if we're going to tackle the 10 years, I'm good with tackling the other 2 as well. But I'm fine with moving forward today. We've, for example, in one of the previous discussions we've had to wait and even put more time and emphasis on something we've wanted. So I have no problem doing the same thing here.
Yep, I agree.
So I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Just for clarification on the definition of full-time employee, would the board prefer we go with the county's version, the IRS version, the standard in the state? We've got the Mental Health Act. These numbers all sort of vary, so I'm happy to do whatever definition. It seems to me that that's a policy decision, not something that I bring to you, but you choose which you would prefer.
I had asked, I'm not for removing the background checks, any of them, honestly. And I believe I've been upfront on that. It looked like the board was okay with removing that. So as you know, while we were in recess, we looked up the definition of full-time employees, and it ranges from 30 to 40 hours depending on what you're looking for. So I would like to go with the 30, as in that's what's required.
Or perhaps I can bring the options to the next board discussion, and the full board can discuss that preference as well at that time.
I was right in the middle
I'm
of
sorry.
talking. I would feel better going with the 30 because at that point they're required to pay insurance and benefits. So
I'm not aware of anybody having to pay insurance and benefits if they're subcontractors. So, but again, that's a board policy decision. I'm happy to go with whatever the board wants to do.
I thought we were talking about employees, not subcontractors.
Correct.
That's true, yeah.
Go ahead, Supervisor Sabatier.
Yeah, no, let's have that discussion. So the employees, if we're going to find a middle ground, because I really don't think we should be, if you have a background and you're not working, I am worried about you. If you have a background and you are working, thank you. Like that makes you a busybody, that it will not do bad stuff. I do not want to tell a corporation, a company, or a local business who they should hire. That's up to them if they want to do background checks. Just stating my personal opinion, I think this is government overreach. We will never be able to get rid of the applicant, and we should never get rid, now that we've added the property owner. I think those are important ones because they are key components to ensuring that we can hold people accountable for what they do wrong when they do wrong. And we listened to our tax collector where there was issues in being able to go after these shell companies, and so having the property owners solves that. So I don't want to get rid of those two, and the state does background checks on the applicants anyways, and so we shouldn't change that. If we're going to be doing employees, yes, let's go ahead and get a definition. If you think that we should do the 30 hours, the 32 hours, to me, it's, how do we know they're working 30 hours? How do we hold, like, we can put these rules on paper, how do we actually enforce them is where I struggle with. So whether it's full-time employee or employee, it's a struggle for me to say, well, there's no full-time employees at all. How do I know? Am I staying out there and checking to see if that's true? Like it's such a weird place to put it, but if we're gonna have a definition, you said 30, I'm okay with that. I just think it's one of those things that on paper it's gonna sound good. In practice, how do we actually hold that accountable? I don't know how we can.
Okay, thank you.
And there was something else that you mentioned?
I did.
Yeah, so the surety bonds.
Yep.
I read out loud during the break. I'll read it out loud now that we're back in the public. Under our industrial hemp permit ordinance, which is under Article 6 of the, let me actually go backwards. Article 6, Chapter 3, which is agriculture and plant protection. Article 6, which is agricultural regulations and standards for the cultivation of industrial hemp in the unincorporated areas of the County of Lake. Under Section 3-78, which is surety bonds, says an applicant shall obtain and provide proof of a current surety bond prior to issuance of the permit. 30-78.1, minimum requirement of $5,000 for cultivation less than 10 acres. 33-78.2, minimum requirement of $10,000 for cultivation of more than or equal to 10 acres. And then 38-78.3, additional $1,000 per acre of surety bonds for cultivation sites equal to or larger than 25 acres. Now, I know and recognize that if we move forward, we are limiting it to no more than 20 acres of canopy, but there are those who may have obtained a prior approval for larger than 20 acres that I would say, let's copy and paste what we have for our hemp. Not much difference, in my opinion, in the cleaning up after of that type of activity versus cannabis. And I'm happy to make that change if we agree to making that change.
Yep, sounds good to me.
Makes sense that it would be the same.
Yeah.
I don't know why it would be different.
It was until now that it's been discussed.
Well, I was willing to compromise today on this 10-year item, so it's, I can go either way with what the board wants to do today. If we're, obviously there's other things to discuss, but I've always felt that with this item that I like having all 5 of us here because it's just such a significant discussion in our county, and there's cannabis in every district, so, just my thought, but, so, I guess, we need to figure out what we're gonna do.
I would like to move forward personally.
I think that adding a definition of full-time doesn't harm the substance of the ordinance changes that we've made. So I think that's perfectly fine. And I think that updating or upgrading our surety bond to match something that we already have in existence is also not a huge, massive change in comparison to where the rest of the board was when we were all five together. I can't speak for Vice Chair Pyska. Obviously, she will be able to put in her vote. But I would be willing to support, I guess, coming back for a first reading, because we don't have the specific definition of full-time at this moment in time. I think it would need to be maybe a little bit better fleshed out than employee hired with 30 or more hours, unless we can get that in writing right now. But I'm all for moving forward if we can today with a definition of full-time employee and with an update to the surety bond, and then saying, let's have a conversation about that 10-10 next time when it comes back.
Okay.
If that's possible to do, if we need a break to make sure we have all that in writing so that we can, because I mean, the surety bond, we can just copy and paste from what's already in existence, so that's not too difficult, but I think we probably should ask staff to come back and give us the exact definition of full-time employee based on the language that was provided by Supervisor Owen.
Can you weigh in, County Council?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, on those two items, it sounds like there's three categories here: the full-time employee definition, the surety bond issue. Certainly, staff, your board can trail this matter so that staff can have language to then present or propose to your board as to those two issues. The same would apply for the 10-year issue, the 10-year issue. As with all ordinances, when you're at second reading, when your board is at second reading, if your board will be making substantive amendments to the draft ordinance that's being presented to you at second reading, if those amendments are specific, such that they're put on record so that the public would know, that would result in just having the second reading be essentially effectively continued to a later date at the next Board of Supervisors meeting for possible adoption. And under that scenario, there would not be a need, it would not be necessary to do another first reading with renoticing, with republication under that scenario. But that would require, at this time, and that's why your board can trail the matter, so specific enough language for staff to propose to your board as substantive amendments to the draft ordinance covering each of these three issues.
So trail it until later this afternoon. Director Turner? That's what we're
Certainly.
talking about right now, is trailing this for a while.
And I can bring back the proposed wording.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. All right. And we can just do that, but go ahead, CAO.
Oh, thank you, Chair. I just want to make the board aware that we're probably not going to go beyond 1 o'clock today.
Okay. Yeah, we're moving quick, so,
I just want to make you aware.
yeah, and I'm not sure how much.
Should you like to take a 10-minute break? We could probably come.
Yeah,
up with something.
is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Let's do a break and we'll see what we can work out.
Great.
And just deal with it. Be back at 11:35, I believe.
I'm going to copy and paste that hemp thing and send it. could always say full-time employee dash cannabis,
Yeah.
if you want to keep it in the F.
All right, we're live. I'm going to call our meeting back to order. And where we left off, we were talking about writing up these 3 issues we've been discussing.
Thank
ahead.
you. Yes. First one, surety bond, copying and pasting the information from hemp into cannabis. Thank you, Supervisor Sabatier, for sending me the citation. It looks like it would go in M, our subsection M, section 27.13, AT in parentheses, 1 in parentheses, wait, that's not right. I think it's supposed to be 1 point II point T in parentheses.
We'll fix that magically as the second reading.
But it really blesses my heart that you sent it this way. Thank you. Just to add that information regarding the surety bond, an applicant shall obtain and provide proof of a current surety bond prior to issuance of permit. 3-78.1, and all of these citations would just be adapted. Minimum requirement of $5,000 for cultivation less than 10 acres. Minimum requirement of $10,000 for cultivation of more than or equal to 10 acres. And an additional $1,000 per acre of surety bonds for cultivation sites equal to or larger than 25 acres. Then adding the definition of the full-time employee, and this would be helpful if I could defer regarding that definition specifically to our Human Resources Director.
Can I interject?
Do you want to go back to surety bonds?
Really quick, I'm sorry. I think there's been discussion of maximizing the amount of acreage for the cannabis at 20. So should that say in excess of 20 acres?
We do have existing permits that are larger than 20
Okay.
acres, and so I
Okay,
think
so
keeping
leave it at the 25. Okay.
yeah, that way it would cover everybody.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But I do appreciate your point. Yeah.
All right,
And I
did
will-
you, Pam, or Director?
Yes. Yes, I just wanted to go over the definition of full-time employee. Generally, a full-time employee is 40 hours a week or 20/80 in a year. The 30 hours is generally the provision for providing insurance benefits, and there's some other criteria with that. So you in the ordinance can do what you want, but generally full-time is 40 hours a week.
Right. And I had just AI'd it, and it looked like, asked AI, and it did state that, and what I'm worried about is somebody going, okay, 39 hours, we're not going to do background checks. Thank you.
So the definition would read as follows: full-time employee hyphen cannabis is an employee who works X amount of hours per week or X amount of hours per year for a single employer. I want to specify single employer because we do not have the staff to start tracking down multiple employers, and these people could feasibly be working for multiple people. So
yeah.
we're going to limit it to a single employer and let the board choose the hours per week. 40 is 2080, 32 is 1664 per year, 30 is 1560 per year. The board, feel free to let me know what you prefer.
Okay, do we want to, go ahead, Supervisor Sabatier.
If we do 2080 a year, we're not doing any fingerprints for anybody. Because it is not a year-round job. Maybe for 2 people, 3 people, I don't know. But I think I'm trying to feel where you guys are coming from. I think we should be aiming for 40 hours a week, not 2,080 hours a year. Because that's just that 90% of the people that are on that field are never going to meet that criteria, if not 95% or more. I am in the belief that that's what you guys are looking for, and I would be okay with it. I'm trying to provide. I'm trying to say I hear you, and that I want to add that in there, and I think it should be anybody working 40 hours a week.
Might I muddy the waters because the spirit of this was to actually have permanent employees, those who are with you for regardless of how many hours a week on a regular and ongoing basis. Should we switch full-time employee to permanent employee, just again using AI. A permanent employee is a worker engaged in an ongoing employment relationship with no predetermined end date, typically classified as a regular employee on the employer's payroll. Perhaps that would satisfy not just the intent of the task force, but then we have no way of verifying really the hours, and that's not going to be where we put our time. We're going to put this as a standard for the reporting that we get in our annual performance reports. And so a permanent employee may capture what the board is more interested in, rather than setting it up for people to play games by keeping it at less than the amount of hours. You know, like employers do play games when they don't want to offer benefits, things like that. So instead of creating something where the board is worried about a loophole, perhaps a permanent employee definition might satisfy.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Just real quick, would that encourage, like you said, the games? Would that encourage someone to just hire temporary employees?
Well, they could just hire people with an or they could say, I'm going to hire you and I'm going to fire you in 2 weeks. But, you know, how are you going to get good employees with that?
Okay, thank you.
So at some point,
Just talking through it. Yeah.
yeah. But at some point we have to kind of settle and let the games be played, if they will.
Yeah, I think no matter what we choose, it's going to be difficult to enforce. And I'm just being honest. I don't anticipate that you're going to be, that I don't think you should be running to find out who's a permanent and not. It is based on the conditions of approvals to make sure that the environment, the neighboring properties, and the practice of the activity of growing cannabis is being done appropriately.
And this is a more
we're
clear
asking a very tall task.
Right. This is a more clear definition or differentiation between the employees that you keep on regularly, such as the retailers, the employees that come and work there, versus, you know, our subcontracting work, which we're already not getting anyway. And so the seasonal employees, not necessarily part of this. So, but that's okay, because the discussion in the task force was differentiating between those ag workers that come in and work for a season versus our more permanent establishments like our manufacturers, our processors, where they have employees coming in all the time, like regular employees that they want to keep on a long-term basis because they trained them and they did background checks on them. So this does seem to maybe meet the spirit of the intent a little better.
Yeah, I kind of like that, because we're not going to be able to track it.
And I don't have enough knowledge about the definition to be able to argue against it. So to my knowledge and what you're bringing forward right now, I don't have a problem with that.
Great. Then I'll switch it out for that which I just read.
Go ahead, Supervisor.
I still think it's mostly an honor system, but at least it puts something in there, and I guess we'll just review it. I did want to add something, if you don't mind my going back to the surety bond, because I noticed a little bit of a difference in what was drafted for the surety bond versus what we copied and pasted from the hemp one. In the original draft, it does say with County of Lake as obligé. Sorry, I'm going to have to say that in the correct way rather than however it's supposed to actually be pronounced in English. And that is not in the hemp one. And I think I'm kind of projecting what I think County Council would want is that we request that they add us as an obligé. And so maybe saying an applicant shall obtain and provide proof of a current surety bond prior to issuance of permit. Let me go back. With County of Lake as obligé. Probably should put that in there. And I see the nod coming from County Council that that's probably more helpful than just getting a surety bond where we're not involved in that whatsoever.
I will add that wording. Thank you.
All right.
And I think those are the two things that we agreed on that we could change and talk about. The 10-year one, it remains the same. We move it forward for discussion at our next meeting to see if there's a change or not.
Yeah.
We can't pull you over, huh?
Well, no, I was willing to, no, I said I was willing today to compromise on the 10-year with a 10-year
Mhm.
extension, but after the further discussion with Supervisor, some of the points he brought up, it seemed to make sense that we would finalize that next time.
Okay, thank you.
So do we have any more discussion right now before, I'm going to open it to the public again for limited to these items that we've been discussing since the last public comment. Go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Supervisors, Margot Kambara. Thank you for taking a closer look at the amendments for the ordinance. I offer some additional background on the background checks. So when the COTF, Cannabis Ordinance Task Force, met, law enforcement representatives attended. The recommendation from law enforcement was to retain background checks for all employees, including the seasonal workers. And that was emphatic. So I offer that for your consideration. And again, thank you for your attention to this very important topic.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else?
Good morning, Tom Lasik. Couple things. One, just I think a point of record. It hasn't been 3 years. It's been now 4. So, for those who are keeping track at home, I think the suggestion to go to a regular employee is a really good idea. I think it cuts through a lot of the confusion of hours because you're not going to be able to enforce that. And just from my personal experience being surrounded by cannabis growers, they tend to have a couple people on staff that are like caretakers year round, you know, to get ready for the next season and things of that nature. So those would be, according to the definition that Director Turner mentioned, would probably qualify for that. The rest of them tend to be seasonal employees. I would perhaps recommend to sort of get to where the Sheriff's Department was recommending, is to, if they're going to use seasonal employees or contracted employees, that those contractors be bonded. And then that can be addressed through the bond if there's any legal or issues that come through that. The other thing on the 10-year option, I'm a little confused as to whether that's going to be part of the first reading today or if that's going to be tabled for a first reading next time, or how that's supposed to work. As Director Turner mentioned, there's a lot of things that were taken out of the ordinance because it was assumed that that would be eliminated. So that would, I think, as Council mentioned, would be substantial because it would touch other parts and pieces. Nevertheless, I think having it unlimited is problematic, especially since you've also reduced the number of inspections in the ordinance, and you've also added language for inspections at the discretion of a director, whether it's this director or a director in the future. They could, in theory, say, well, I just don't want to do inspections anymore. And I have that discretion, and then you don't have any control. So I think there needs to be protections for the community. I mean, the biggest concern that we see is land use conflicts, because there are violations, there are things that are happening, and they're allowed to continue to happen, or there's just not enough enforcement or enough resources to get out there and tell people what to do. So that's my comment. Again, just to recap, the regular employer I think is a good idea. I think that the 10-year, I'm not entirely sure if that's happening today or in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have, you want to make a comment? Go ahead.
I just want to respond to that. Unless I'm mistaken, it says if there are no violations on the county permit or state license during the first 5 years, The inspection frequency may be reduced by the director to not less than once every 2 years. The 5-year annual review period restarts upon change of permanent ownership. So there's no discretion in the first 5 years, and there needs to be no violations in the first 5 years in order for the director to maybe, because there could be 0 violations and no reduction in inspections, but only if there's no violations can there be a potential for reduction in inspections. So I feel like it's not just discretion, it's very specific as to there can't be any violations. If there's no violations, there's the discretion to reduce it. And so if there are violations, that discretion doesn't exist. So I'm very comfortable with that. I just want to at least mention what's in writing and read it specifically. And in there, it also says compliance monitoring inspection shall be conducted annually or every other year during the growing season in compliance with what I just read. So therefore, it's very well connected that there has to be 5 years of 0 violations in order to even be allowed to have that level of discretion. And I would like to believe that if you show 5 years of goodwill, that we should give some kind of reward at one point rather than continuously asking somebody to pay to be looked at for something that they do correctly. So I feel comfortable with where we are with the review process. We worked on that last time to ensure that we kind of closed up that loophole. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't go to online yet, did I? Guest, if you can identify yourself, you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to thank all of you for having this discussion today. Without oversight of a regulated industry, there's a lot of wiggle room for bad actors. And just to point out that why the 10-year permit life is so important, that at least one, potentially both of those revocations that were on your agenda for today were almost at their 10-year permit expiration. So they would have had no oversight. And that's the other problem, is that they just know they have to make it to that 10-year and then it's a free for all, which it shouldn't be. But once again, thank you for having this important discussion and look forward to seeing it move forward.
Thank you. Next. Zoom user 2.
Skylar One, Pillsbury Family Farms, and I just wanted to comment on the employee part. California already has the Department of Industrial Relations for a reason. Its purpose is to protect workers' rights, to address wages, hours, working conditions, labor law, and the definition of employees and how many hours they are allowed to work. From my perspective, it seems that the county is beginning to suggest what employee hours should be looked at on a cannabis farm. And I think that is a line that you need to be careful not to cross. If an employee believes that they were not paid correctly or given improper breaks or have concerns about their work schedule, they already have the legal rights and the established avenues through the Department of Industrial Relations and a labor commissioner. Those protections exist regardless of what your cannabis ordinance says. Not every department needs to regulate every single issue. Community development needs to focus on the land use, the permitting, the compliance within the ordinance, and the labor issue should remain with the agencies that were already created to enforce labor law. It is very important to recognize that every farm operates different. Mine is seasonal. We're generally active from April to November, but workloads can change throughout the season. The flexibility is that it's a seasonal agriculture and it needs to be managed from California labor law, not through Director Turner's permitting requirements. And I encourage this board to make sure that your ordinance aligns with the proper role of Department of Industrial Relations and the Department of Cannabis Control, and it avoids creating the overlapping and the conflicting expectations. And as a reminder, good governance isn't about regulating everything. It is about making sure that the right agency handles the right responsibility. Moleha.
Thank you. Natasha, go ahead.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Kind of on the line there. Supervisors, I wanted to just say that the landscape in this arena has changed so much in the last 10, 15 years. So I think overall, with what was discussed today, I'm in agreement with pretty much 100% of it. And I think coming back next week and discussing it as a full team on a roundtable is a good way to go. So keep up the good work. That's it.
Thank you. No other hands. I'll bring it back to the board for final action. Or further comments?
I just, I guess I need to make a final comment, and I didn't respond to one of Tom's comments. To me, we would be making these two changes to the definition of permanent employee and the surety bonds. The other one we're leaving alone with not putting it on consent for the second reading and making sure that we have a conversation about the 10-year before making a final decision. If there's changes, it would require changes, which would bring it back to another cycle. If there's no changes and there's a vote to approve, then we approve as is, as stated. That is where I think we were heading in the direction. I don't want to overrule. I can't, where it's a 2-2, and engage in a conversation. So that's the process that I see, and I hope that clarifies that. The other one is our biggest concern in our communities should still be opioids. Yet we're not passing a law to fingerprint, background check people who work at a pharmacy. Like, it's just, I feel like we are just going in a place where we don't belong, because that should be the pharmacy's job. That should be the business's job who wants to grow cannabis. We're doing it for the owner and for the applicant. The rest is, in my opinion, absolute overreach and something we have zero control over anyways. It just feels good to do it. And I don't know what we're afraid of when our biggest concerns in our communities is not our legal grows.
It's meth.
All right. And
We're surely not fingerprinting them.
And so, just so I understand, if we move
We're
forward,
also not regulating it.
And I think it's over-regulation, but just
No,
needed to make
I
my
mean
last
meth.
comment.
We're not regulating meth.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Sorry, I shouldn't have.
so yeah, that's how I understand it too, that if we go forward with these two changes, it'll be a second reading again next week. Then if we decide to make another change on the 10-year, then it could still be a second reading for a week further down the road, depending on what we do with that question. Okay. Did you have something else?
Would the board prefer we place it on oh, no, never mind. Let's make it timed.
Yeah, it needs to be a timed item because we're going to discuss that item.
To respect the conversation that we said
right.
that we wanted to have.
Right.
Seriously?
Well, it probably 45.
Yeah.
Let's do 1 o'clock. Okay, so we need action.
If we
Go ahead.
If we can get a review of the amendments that we are requesting.
Certainly. We will add a definition of permanent employee -cannabis to Article 68. This definition is a worker who engages in an ongoing employment relationship with no predetermined end date, typically classified as a regular employee on the employer's payroll.
And that would be a new section that would be added.
I would integrate Article 68 into this ordinance as is related to adding that.
So I'm looking at County Council. Do we need to know word for word what we are adding? Do we need to show it? Or is, because this, just reading it kind of saying we're going to add it versus here's what's added to it and here's the amendment we're approving?
Some of the numbers are going to need to be renumbered, so not the citations, but the sections because of the surety bond. So if you'd like to know the amendments, I can do that right now. If you want citations, I don't have that. And section numbers.
County Council.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So, taking issue by issue, the definition of the full-time employee, I believe Director Turner has alluded to.
Permanent
The article, or permanent employee rather. The article or chapter that will be referenced in this upcoming amended ordinance for a second reading. So specific citations would not be necessary. I think that's sufficient enough for our purposes here, with your board's permission to, as part of the direction of staff, to incorporate that definition based on, in accordance with the article that Director Turner just
68.
Yeah, Article 68 that Director Turner just referenced. And so any other additions to the exact citations, subsections, parentheses, I mean, those would be just minor revisions at that point, because your board's intent would be in substance to incorporate that in Article 68. So that would be adequate for purposes of second reading.
Okay.
The surety bond exceptions, it would have the same approach if Director Turner has an idea of which article or chapter, generally speaking, that would take place, so that it would be incorporated, or perhaps it's already in the draft ordinance itself.
Already there,
That
which
would be
an expansion.
even more straightforward. Yes, so again, that can also proceed for purposes of our second reading at the next board meeting.
Okay.
The surety bond language, I would be happy to share again, that the applicant shall obtain and provide proof of a current surety bond prior to the issuance of the permit. And then it starts the tiered system, a minimum.
With the county of Lake.
I was going
as
to add
the-
that last,
Oh,
but
so
yeah,
sorry. So
I'm
sorry.
getting there.
I'm sorry.
Minimum requirement of $5,000 for cultivation less than 10 acres, $10,000 for cultivation of more than or equal to 10 acres, and then we'd add up to 25 acres. And then thirdly, additional $1,000 per acre of surety bonds for cultivation sites equal to or larger than 25 acres, with the inclusion of or identification of County of Lake as obligé.
Okay. Go ahead.
And the discussion for 1010 is not going to be integrated into the draft ordinance at this time.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So with those amendments, just want to make it clear to the board, it's in addition to the other typographical amendments that was earlier stated by Director Turner that your board has approved as well. So, and if your board is ready, I do have the proposal.
We're ready.
So the motion language would be to move to have this draft ordinance as amended, with all the amendments as stated by Director Turner, approved by your board, be advanced to the next Board of Supervisors meeting, time and date certain. That would be July 28 at 1 p.m. For consideration and possible adoption. Second reading.
And can I offer a addition to that the title would also need to be changed to incorporate Article 68?
And that would be part of the amendment as well. Yes.
All right.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That carries 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we're going to move on to our 11 a.m. And I'm going to push through unless board tells me not to, because
Nope, it's fine.
And we have consensus for the time and everything else? We don't need
Yeah.
anything further than that?
no, we had
Do we need to
decided
make a
that.
motion for the second reading?
Do we need to be specific on a motion for the time on this?
That was made a part of the motion too.
Okay.
It was
Apologize.
time and date certain, yes.
Okay. So we're moving on to the 11 a.m. public hearing. Consideration and recommendation of revocation of major use permit, UP 1838. Permittee John Brosnan authorizing commercial cannabis activity up to 120 square feet of canopy located at 11739 Old Spruce Grove Road, Lower Lake, APN 012-032-04. And again, the same, this is identical to the last one, in that we want to move it to off of our agenda, send it to the Planning Commission.
Mireya Turner, Community Development Director. Yes, Chair, thank you. Staff does request that this be removed from today's agenda.
Okay. And any questions from the board? I don't believe so. Any public comment? Nothing in the room, nothing online? Okay, and again, we don't need any action. We're just removing this from our agenda.
Yes.
Go ahead, County Council.
Yes, Mr. Chair. So just by consensus of the board to have
Yeah,
this
we have
withdrawn from-
consensus here. Yeah, I do. Thank you. And now we're going to move on to
Calendars.
calendars. Is anybody ready?
So
Supervisor Crandall.
tomorrow I have a panel that I'll be on from 12 to 1 from California Natural Resources, conserving California's iconic waters and the future of Lake Tahoe, the Salton Sea, and Clear Lake. So I've been asked to speak in that forum. That'll be tomorrow at 12 online. Klogba Thursday. Friday I have somewhat of an open catch-up email, phone call day type thing. And then I'll be here Monday for, I gotta hit the CAO meeting. But we'll do that and then back here Tuesday.
Thank you.
I'll just be brief. I was gone to New Orleans for the National Association of Counties annual conference. I want to say, I guess, one of the major things that I learned about, I will be discussing with our administrative staff, which is of potential great concern. We know that when President Trump went into office, he started doing a litany of executive orders. Some of those executive orders resulted in grants that were taken back, entire programs that were defunded, and eventually those were refunded and grants reprovided because of court actions and the fact that Congress had already approved of the appropriations and therefore an executive order couldn't change that. There are rules and regulations that have just completed the public comment process that would change the uniform code at the Office of Management of Budgets that would allow that to occur in the future, which actually comes with extra caveats in the sense that if we receive federal grants, we have to prove that everybody who touches the federal grant funding, everybody who is consulting using federal grant money, every end user who receives services from federal money would have to get background checked for citizenship and other things of the kind, which adds a level of just work and capacity that we have not seen before. There's also, the exact words is reputational harm, which nobody has a definition on that, speaking of definitions, where if the county or those who have received federal dollars finds to put the administration in reputational harm, that they can just pull the money back whenever they feel like it. We, in the conversations at NACO, there's certain parts of it that we are not against, but at the same time, we need to have a predictable environment where change of philosophy, like we're worried that every new administration is going to flip the script on what that means and who will lose and not have the predictability of where these funds will come from and how long we can use them. Even if we hire a consultant to do a program for us, they could lose their funding, which will help deteriorate the relationships that we have with the many partners that we work with. So there's a lot to work through. It's supposed to get activated on October, and I know that I will be working and having conversations with admin staff because we need to figure out where we are and what that means for us, especially if it moves forward as of October 1st. What I was told, there's two options to not stop this, but at least postpone it to iron out some of the concerns, because again, not everything in there is bad. But one option is basically like a congressional referendum where they have the ability to make a vote to say, we want to review this new internal regulation code that was just approved. Hasn't been fully approved, but it's supposed to be active in October. Or during the reconciliation, potentially during the next government shutdown, that it can be a part of negotiations to change these rules and regulations that have just gone through, which is both of those options are not good options if that's the only options. And from what I'm understanding, both sides of the aisle are not happy with these regulations. Like one of the first questions was, what about our community projects? Will those be impacted? And so there's some very personal reasons as to why Congress would not want these things to be impacted. They want to see these funds going to their local communities so that communities can move forward with some of the projects and some of the programs that they want going. So as NACO stated, in the last 50 years, this is probably one of the most important changes that we could potentially see if this goes through, because it would change the relationship between the federal government and local municipalities from a government to government relation to a government to contractor relationship, where we are told what it is that we need to do, which would make us lose some of our local control. So just wanted to make sure and provide that to you. That was one of the biggest moments in the conference as far as information of things that we need to learn about, read about, and have discussions about, and wanted to make sure you were alerted to that. Other than that, it was a great conference, and I'm sure that I feel like I need to wait for my colleague, Vice Chair Pyska, before we elaborate on some more things that occurred in there. And I'm just going to leave it at that. I already talked to Law.
Supervisor Allen?
Okay, tomorrow I have Red Bud Fire Safe Council on, that's what I have down for 10.
I haven't seen an agenda, so I'm going to say, let me get back to you about that.
Okay. I also I have to meet with the Farm Bureau, and there's also a Rose Foundation Settlement Fund discussion.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I also have some work that I'm doing right now with the Valley Oaks project. I've been working on that a little bit, and I have to, one of the big issues with that I'm trying to get brought forward is another road going in and out of the Coyote Valley Elementary School. And I know I've spoke with Lars today. I've got to set up a meeting to try to get that moving forward. Right now, there's one way in and one way out. So for safety reasons, I feel strongly that we need to have another road. Friday night, I have a rodeo at my place for the kids, Middletown Rodeo, for the next 5 Friday nights, actually. And I'll be working on, of course, along with the Valley Oak, and I have a couple of other things on my agenda, and as well as the agenda for next week. Thank you.
All right. I'm going to be attending watching that presentation that you mentioned tomorrow. It's going to talk about Clear Lake. Had Scotts Valley Advisory Council last night. I want to thank the CAO, Deputy CAO, for having Casey come out and do a quick budget presentation to that community. That was helpful, so thank you. And then on Saturday, the Scotts Valley Council is having their annual neighborhood gathering, so I'll be at that. And then I plan to attend Lakeport City Council tonight, and that's it. I think we've covered everything except for closed. So I'll read those off. We're going to go into closed session now. The first one will be 8.1, conference with legal counsel, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D2 and E1, 3 potential cases. 8.2, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1. That's the FERC proceeding number P-77 Potter Valley Hydroelectric Project. And I believe that was it for closed. Anybody in the public have any comments on the closed items? Not seeing any nothing online? No? Okay, close that. And we're going to move into closed session with a full shutdown. Full shutdown, Sam? 10 minutes? All right. We'll be in recess for 10 minutes while we shut down.